Good afternoon, everyone. Good. Hi, good afternoon. Welcome. I know it's at the end of study week. It's busy. If you've been in lead library this week, graduates were decorating their caps this afternoon. We've been giving out snacks every afternoon, every evening. We've been coloring. We have been petting dogs. Um, we just do it all here in Lead Library and in our branch libraries across the university because we so enjoy working with our students and providing them a space to relax and de-stress and get ready for finals next week. And some of you for commencement next week. So and many of you have heard us say that commencement truly is a celebration and it brings home to all of us. We're concerned with how many books are checked out, the carpet's been cleaned, has the food been ordered? But when it comes to commencement, we are reminded about the work that we do throughout the university to create opportunities for our students and to focus on the skills and the expertise that they will need for a successful career and a successful life. So thank you for joining us for the 2023 Lance and Elena Calvert Awards for Undergraduate Research. And my name is Maggie Farrell. I'm the Dean of the Libraries. And we are so pleased to be able to present the Calvert Awards and honor the work of our undergraduate students at UNLV. As I've said, we are thrilled that we get to the end of this semester and can celebrate the outstanding student work, particularly our outstanding student researchers. So I'll keep my remarks very short because we want to hear mostly from our students and faculty. So the Calvert Awards honor outstanding students who have demonstrated exceptional use of the library's resources and critical application of information in their research papers and class projects. This year, we are excited to have 7 awards being presented to 8 individuals. These awards are made possible through the generosity of Lance and Elena Calvert. Lance and Elena have recognized the important aspect and the impact of undergraduate research and the valuable role that our libraries play in supporting all forms of research and scholarship. Elena and Lance established an endowment to fund these awards, and these awards continue to be a highlight for the libraries as we showcase the talent and skillful student research here at UNLV. Lance and Elena are not able to be with us this evening, but I think it would be appropriate to have a round of applause to thank Lance and Elena for their generosity. So we have a number of special individuals with us this evening that will be announced throughout the award ceremony, but I would like to recognize one individual in particular. The library's advisory board is a group dedicated to supporting our mission through fundraising, and we are fortunate to have one of our members with us this evening, Betty Lacombe. Join me in welcoming Betty Lacombe. Thank you, Betty. Now, for the announcement of the Lance and Elena Calvert Awards for Undergraduate Research, I will turn it over to Assistant Professor and Librarian Amber Sewall. Amber?
Thank you very much, Maggie. Hello, everybody. My name is Amber Sewell, and I'm a teaching and learning librarian here at UNLV Libraries. It was my pleasure this year to coordinate the judging of the Lance and Elena Calvert Award for Undergraduate Research. This year's judging panel consisted of 14 individuals representing a number of disciplines and areas of expertise across campus. This award would not have been possible without their thoughtful time, effort, and dedication to undergraduate student work here at UNLV. While I will not name them all now, they are listed in the program, and I wanted to take a moment to convey how much I appreciate their hard work during one of the busiest times of the semester. We received what could very well be a record number of submissions this year from a wide variety of disciplines, and the judges offered valuable feedback and enthusiastic discussion of their merits. After hearing from today's award winners, I'm sure you will understand why the judges were so impressed. Thank you to our judges. Your service is greatly appreciated. I also owe gratitude and appreciation to both Roseanne Matola and Carrie-Ann Cahall. It is difficult to summarize all of the many steps and decisions that go into coordinating this award, and their attention to detail, thoughtful student-centered consideration, and dedication to supporting and highlighting UNLV's student work makes this all possible. So thank you both. I would also like to echo Maggie's thanks to Lance and Elena Calvert, coordinating this award and witnessing all of the excellent student work under consideration is a highlight of my year, and I appreciate their generosity in making this award possible. Not only is this a wonderful way to honor undergraduate students here at UNLV who are doing exceptional work, this award is a meaningful way to present these impressive student projects, created under the thoughtful guidance of their faculty advisors, to the faculty, staff, and community of UNLV. It's an uplifting reminder of the potential in our students and an inspiring way to bring the semester to a close. So thank you again for making this possible. And now I have the great honor of introducing you to this year's winners, what we're all here for. Allister Dias is our winner in the Emerging Scholars category. His project is Ronald Reagan and War Rhetoric in the 20th Century. His faculty sponsor, Dr. Brian Blankfield, was highly complimentary of Allister's degree of originality, consideration of the context of the resources he consulted during the course of his research, and his methodology, telling judges that Allister was the first in this class, which he's taught several times, to his knowledge, that actually reached out to a presidential library to inform their work. Dr. Blankfield also communicated that he was highly impressed that Allister, a sophomore in this senior level course, was producing such high quality work in an environment where students are often completing work and assignments that could easily fulfill an MA program's workload. Judges were struck by the incredible breadth of sources that Allister consulted and enthusiastically supported this project as a great example of work done by an emerging scholar. I would like to invite Allister up to share some remarks about his project.
Good afternoon. This is oddly the third speech I've had to give this week, but that's okay. All right, so first and foremost, I just want to say a very special thank you to all the folks here at the library who put this event together. And just before I begin, I just want to thank some very special people in my life who have made all this possible. I'm a very deeply religious man, so I like to give thanks to God for giving us this opportunity, bringing all of us here, and giving us all the skills to do so. I'd also like to give a very special thank you to my faculty advisor, Dr. Brian Blankfield, for his continued support throughout this project and always guiding me in every step of the way and always being there to give me feedback in how to refine my project. Interestingly, he was also my public speaking professor. So in addition to contributing to my work here, he has also inadvertently contributed to this very speech. I'd also like to give a very special thank you to Amber Sewell, I think that's how you say it, for encouraging me to apply and giving me very helpful tips on how to put together a nice competitive application, along with a very special thank you to Lance and Elena Calvert, obviously, for their inspiring levels of contribution to the UNLV community and for all the students and faculty here. Interestingly, when I was little, I saw this advertisement on the PBS channel about Big Bird shows up. This sounds really strange, but Big Bird shows up to this little girl's house and he takes this little girl on a world trip all across the world and to different historical events. And one of these historical events was the fall of the Berlin Wall. Now, back then, as a little boy, I never really understood what that was or why there was some random wall falling down. And I never really understood how significant it was until I reached the higher levels of education, like high school and college. In this class, we were assigned a term paper to explore a particular speech given by a US president and rhetorical devices that made that speech special or certain effects that that speech had. And remembering that event from that PBS advertisement, I wanted to see who or what played a pivotal role in breaking down the Berlin Wall. In modern America, the position of the president has changed so often. Each president brings a new personality, a new bravado, a new emotion. They build upon each other and establish some forms of international appeal. In my work, I wanted to assume the role of somebody who explores the precedent that different presidents established and how it plays out on the world stage. In my case, I realized that Ronald Reagan's speech on the Berlin Wall played a pivotal role in understanding what a good order looks like and how this appeals to things like performative rhetoric and established a sense of continued inspiration across both East and West Berlin. For my work, I tried to figure that maybe there's a place out there that's just dedicated to Ronald Reagan and his work and his speech. And very much so, it turns out that place actually exists. It's called the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library Academic Center in California. I was able to speak to historians there who gave me a very deep understanding of not only who Reagan is, but also gave me some context about the war itself and maybe things that contributed to the speech in and of its construction. They helped me realize that there are certain aspects that made Reagan a unique orator compared to maybe past presidents like Kennedy or Carter. Additionally, reading past transcriptions of Reagan's speech used in the congressional archives helped me to understand past trends that Reagan used in his speeches and maybe how they contributed to the Berlin Wall speech. It was all a very long process, but I think it was very fruitful in nature. Lead Library, as you're all probably aware, has a lot of great resources that I utilized for the nature of this work. Video databases and textbook databases about the Cold War, the events that led up to the speech, along with how certain events led to the eventual fall of the Soviet Union and the world that we share and love today. This award represents a shift in my overall thought perception and my overall sense of thinking. It incentivizes me to dig my heels deeper into the field of research and hone in on what topics in academia are worth exploring. Now, most importantly, this speech holds a very symbolic place to me. When I was a little boy, I was very introverted. If you had told me 7 years ago to come up here and deliver some remarks, I would have probably not shown up at all to deliver anything because I was extremely scared to talk in front of people or talk behind a podium or even talk to my professors. However, through the realm of college, I was able to really build up my confidence, to build up my public speaking skills through Dr. Blankfield's class and through certain successes in past weeks. I think that the past successes have molded me into the person I am today and has allowed me to achieve great things and to share some great memories with people who are obviously very much talented in whatever they do. Thank you.
All right. So Zachary Billot is one of our winners in the Advanced Undergraduate category. His project is titled Municipal Waste in Southern Nevada, Understanding the Obsession with Garbage. Dr. Caitlin Saladino, his faculty sponsor, wrote generously of Zach's evolution as a policy scholar and a vibrant student leader. She applauded his ability to convey the nuances of a complex policy landscape to a non-expert audience and called his project well-researched, persuasive, and audience-centered. She also detailed the ways in which he engaged with this research beyond the course, including participating in the UNLV Office of Undergraduate Research Symposia and the UNLV President's Innovation Challenge. This year's judges were incredibly impressed with Zach's work, giving it top scores regarding the originality and the impact of the work, the detailed research process that included consulting with UNLV librarians, and his persistence and creativity in locating the information the project required. I would like to invite Zach up to give some remarks about his work.
So I'll save it a little bit on saying the same thank yous that Allister did, because I think we all have the same thank yous. Thank you, of course, to Lance and Elena, of course. But I also want to say a special thank you to Dr. Saladino, who is not here, and also a special thank you to Susie Scarl, who I do see is here. But before I actually get into talking about my project, I do want to say that the help that Dr. Saladino provided for the ability to articulate the overall goal of this project was essential. And then the help that Susie has provided for this project and many others has been invaluable. And it's certainly set me up with some essential skills to contribute to better research in the future. This project, more broadly, was a very difficult and uphill battle from the beginning because it's hard to convince people that trash matters. And it's sort of a symptom of existing in our modern world where we always have products that are both disposable and it's easy to do so. So it doesn't really make any sense to think about it. We have trash cans in every room and we always have catered food. And unfortunately, catered food does not always get eaten. So that ends up going somewhere. And that's usually the landfill. And that was essentially the motivation for this project is broadly, how do we interact with municipal waste and how can we change that to better serve not only the people that live in the state and this country, but also the environment, the animals that might interact with this waste that we create. And I've used that to not only inspire this research, but also inspire some motivations in some professional and academic aspirations beyond this award and beyond this research. I will say I was so out there on my Truman Scholarship application talking about waste. That's likely the only reason I won, because they talked about plastic water bottles with me for like 10 minutes. And no one wants to talk about plastic water bottles until you write about it in an application, and that takes guts. So I I will say this project, now I'll get sort of into what the project created. I think that this policy brief more broadly helped to establish first a discourse around waste and how we manage it, and two, maybe some possible solutions that might make some people upset, might make some people happy, but I think might create the most beneficial world in the future. So some key insights, I'll give you the executive summary, but we create a lot of waste here, and it's about 2.5 million tons of waste a year, which is a lot, and that only continues to grow as Las Vegas continues to grow. And unfortunately, as much as we'd like to think that recycling goes a long way in creating a more sustainable world, we here in Nevada do not have a particularly good recycling system, and we've had a 25% recycling rate mandate by the state legislature implemented since 1991, and we've hit that only 2 years in 2011 and 2012. So it's a pretty intense situation when you think all the things that you're putting in the recycle bin are getting recycled, but then you add on the additional problems with contamination, and we have the highest contamination rate of recycled products in the United States at 30%. So that means 3 out of every 10 products you put into the recycle bin are going to go to the landfill. And conveniently, although I hope they don't watch this recording, Republic Services operates the curbside pickup. They operate Apex Landfill, which is the largest landfill in the United States. It's about the size of 4.5 Disneylands. And then they also operate recycling facilities. So if things can't get recycled, they just send it to their landfill and get paid regardless. So there's not much incentive to create a more sustainable world when the very foundations of municipal waste and recycling are all operated by one company that unfortunately gets paid regardless of the outcome, whether it's environmentally beneficial or not. So some of the policy solutions, this is where I might make someone upset. I think that we should convert back to dual stream recycling, which means put all your cardboard and paper products in one bin and everything else in the other. Cardboard has really great greenhouse gas mitigation effect because it makes up such a high amount of the recycled materials. And it's also super easy to recycle. And it's also one of the most contaminable products. So if you separate it, you might create some more opportunity to recycle that. And then the other thing would just to be holding monopolization and the companies that take advantage of it accountable for their actions. So I think that can take place in 2 forms. So part of this research, I was able to present it at 3 conferences. One was the OUR Symposium, and then I presented it in Montana for the Western Regional Honors, and then I presented it at the Midwest Political Science Association in Chicago. And each time someone had something new to contribute to the project. And in Montana, it was particularly interesting because Waste Management, who's another big monopoly in the waste management, conveniently they named themselves what the practice is. But they're another major monopolization industry. And in Montana, they had actually allowed, by city council statute, a different municipal hauler to contract with the landfill that Waste Management operated. And I think that's very similar to what we have here, and I would not have found that out if I hadn't have traveled to Montana and learned about it. So that's one of the other things, is holding the monopolization accountable, or the monopoly accountable. And I think that that can also take form in fining organizations that don't hold true to their environmental promises. And the second thing, this is the most interesting to me, is that you can actually create renewable energy from landfills. And Nevada, with Apex Landfill, has one of the highest capacities for renewable energy generation from methane transmission that the trash creates, but we only operate at about a quarter capacity. So I think that the state government should hold Republic Services accountable and make sure that they're actually creating the 11,000 homes worth of energy that they can create from the landfill every year. And ultimately, in sum, that's to say that trash is much more complicated than putting things in a bin. And I would never have known that if I hadn't have embarked upon this journey. And now it's sort of become a daily obsession to talk about the environment and garbage. And every time someone puts something in a bin, I have to tell them, oh, well, you know, that's not really going to get recycled, right? That's 9% of it. It's great to practice the habit, but you have to actually change the system if you want the recycling to get changed. It's great. But that's the other thing. President's Innovation Challenge was about food waste as well. So I've really tried to live this research beyond the paper. And I think that that's really where research becomes valuable, is when you can allow the words to speak beyond the pages. And I'll finish there.
All right. So Allyssa Chua is another winner of this year's Advanced Undergraduate category. Her project is the analysis of wartime rape using postmodern feminism in the conflicts of Sierra Leone 1991, Bosnia Herzegovina 1992, Darfur 2003. Her faculty sponsor, Dr. Nurses Copeland, described Alyssa's project as a research paper that supersedes standards of undergraduate scholarship within the social sciences, and that she formulated an original conceptual and theoretical framework for her project using a number of methodologies and disciplinary lenses. The amount of consideration and scholarly work that Dr. Kopalian described in her letter is astounding, and it was echoed by the judges' comments of this winning project. Judges were impressed by the wide array of diverse resources, Alyssa's well-articulated use of the library and librarians, and the excellent and sophisticated framework developed and implemented in this project. I would like to now invite Allyssa up to share more about her work.
Hi everyone. All of you can hear me, right? Okay, sorry, just a tad bit nervous. All right, so my paper is about, as what Amber said, postmodern feminism analysis, and it's basically my framework. So I use it to understand the effective weaponization of wartime rape, which actually occurs in a very, very high amount. And I believe that, of course, a lot of it has to do with patriarchal superstructures that then, of course, unfortunately govern the bodies of these women and seek to actually silence them from talking about wartime rape and sexual violence. And that's why it is often invisible and even unheard of. So, what brought me, or what made me really interested in this topic, was because of Dr. Kopalian, and he is my advisor, he's my mentor. He's been a really great professor. I was really obsessed with his classes. I took 3 of them, despite them being very difficult, but I really love them very much. And he recommended to me a book which was called Gendering Politics by J. Ann Tickner. And he said that you have to read this so that you can be familiarized with feminism and apply it into international relations because we don't talk much about feminism and international relations. And what got me the most was in chapter 2 of this book. So I was a third year in political science, and it was like my first time hearing that wartime rape was very much prevalent and it was a flagrant issue up until right now, up until with the war in Ukraine. Unfortunately, it may also be likely with the ongoing conflict in Sudan that has been rising up and escalating. And as I was going through my research, I've also found out that wartime rape was weaponized and practiced even during the times of ancient Greece and Rome, which really kind of took me aback and really shocked me there. So I got surprised. I felt a bit ashamed that I didn't know about this, and I decided to write a paper on it. Now, I would like to really thank my faculty, my research committee over there. So I really like to thank them all. I would like to thank first Dr. Kapalian. He's out of state right now doing his own thing. And I really want to thank him so much for accepting me. I know he's been really super duper busy, but thank you, Dr. Kapalian, if you're watching this. Also love to thank Dr. Phelps, who is my expert committee. And without her feedback, I really wouldn't have, gotten this far. And of course, Dr. Bub, who's part of my honors committee, who provided an outside perspective has been like super, super duper helpful. And of course, I would like to thank Lance and Lena not only for making this award possible, but for also acknowledging that a lot of UNLV undergraduates are also capable of producing so much research. So for the library and how I utilize the library, I had to access, various databases, various articles. And let me tell you that without the library, it would be very, very expensive. It would reach probably about $100 or so, and I cannot afford to do that. So I would like to thank the library for making it affordable for us students, for of course also providing hard and electronic copies. It's been really amazing working with it. And of course for the librarians, one of them is Susie Scarl over there, who's been really helpful with me, and also Brittany Sterling. And without them, this project would not be as manageable as it is right now. So thank you so much for telling me all the tips and tricks. It's been really super helpful. Now, what this award means to me is that aside from the fact that this is kind of like my first achievement ever in my life, so I'm really happy. I also, thank you. So I also kind of want to add that all of you have done something which the governments have failed to do for these women and girls. And that's the very fact that you have recognized them as victims. Because a lot of times these women and girls have been seen as symbols of shame in their communities, have been used by the government in their own ways. And in fact, they're too scared even to tell their own government officials about the wartime rape or about the war crimes, that they have to rely on international organizations and even foreigners to do so. So I would like to thank you all so much for awarding me, but at the same time, for also giving these women a voice and in a way for letting them be heard. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, make sure my notes are in the right order. All right, so Devan Henriott is our last winner in the advanced undergraduate category this year. His project is Richard Owen, A Forgotten Icon. Dr. John Hay, his faculty sponsor, explained how Devan went above and beyond with this assignment, sharing that he was incredibly impressed by the lucidity and originality of Devan's work. Most notable was Devan's work with more than twice the number of required sources for this assignment, including both rigorous peer-reviewed scholarship and the analysis of primary documents from the 19th century, which Devan used to construct and present a strong original argument about this public figure who's largely been forgotten. Judges were similarly impressed by this project, especially because it was completed in a single semester instead of a dual semester project, describing it as, quote, nearly professional grade work. I would like to invite Devan up to give some remarks about his project.
Hi, everyone. First, I would just like to thank you for the award. over the last couple of years here, I've been in and out of the library, and I've seen like the previous winners, and I never would imagine I would be among one of them. So again, I would just like to express my gratitude. My topic was on 19th century biologist and paleontologist Richard Owen. He was one of the most famous naturalists of his time and a rival of the more famous Charles Darwin. And a fun fact about him is that he coined the word dinosaur. That comes from the Greek for dinos, which means wondrous and powerful, and saurus, meaning lizard. I originally wrote this paper as a research assignment for my honor seminar class taught by Dr. Hay on Charles Darwin and on the origin of species. And I was kind of unique in this position because I was randomly assigned to write a topic on Richard Owen. And at first, I didn't really know what to expect because it's just some random 19th century scientist. I didn't really expect to find much interesting stuff there. But the more I learned, the more I realized how interesting that his life actually was. And at times, when I was like learning more about him, it kind of felt like I was like reading a screenplay. And if I would like, saw this kind of stuff that he went through in his life in a movie, I would think it would be like kind of unrealistic. So just kind of amazing, like kind of stories you can dig up and you just look through history. So regarding that, his life kind of does mirror a screenplay. You have a rising action where he works his way up from modest beginnings to become a highly respected museum curator, lecturer of comparative anatomy, and theorizer of the nature of species. And then you have highly dramatic events like him backstabbing his collaborators and taking credit for the work. And you see him at the height of his powers, where he rules the comparative anatomy community with an iron fist, crushing those who disagree with him and try to finish his theories. And then you get to a climax where he eventually takes on a fight against Charles Darwin, and that's the one fight that he eventually loses and has his dramatic effect on his legacy. And so you can see that even in this story, he gets his comeuppance as well. So there's a moral there as well. And then you can even bow tie it with a bittersweet conclusion, because even in his last words on Charles Darwin, after Charles Darwin has died, even with his old rival, he was still able to praise Charles Darwin and call him an inspiration for being able to inspire a generation of biologists. So the research, why I find this research significant is because the lessons that we can like learn from Richard Owen's life and just in general about the context of his life. So, like I mentioned, the most interesting stories can come from the most unexpected places. And another thing that I learned a lot while doing this research is the importance that when you're looking back at history, that you're often at the whims of the historians who are writing about that history. Owen was one of the most famous people in the 1800s in Western Europe, and yet pretty much anybody in this room, I doubt many of you have heard of him before, if you have. And the reason for that is that Darwin and his followers, after they got the supremacy and their debate against one another, they wrote him out of Victorian history. And when the secondary authors were going and looking back on this period, they wanted to side with Charles Darwin, obviously, because he's a very famous person with a very he was just right about his theories in biology. So they sided with him, and so they kind of agreed with his unilateral position about like Richard Owen is just a plainly evil person, pretty much. And it's not until recently that there's been more efforts that paint him in a more nuanced view. But what that does show is that when you're doing research, you should rely more on primary sources so you can be able to come to these conclusions yourself rather than being able to rely on the opinions or how other authors have framed that. And when you do have to rely on secondary sources, be able to corroborate it between plenty of different authors so you can make sure that you're not just dependent on one person's biases. And it also shows importance of looking at nuance when you're analyzing history, because, like I mentioned, Charles Darwin painted him as a horrible person who coasted off the coattails of others and by stealing their work. And while he was a mean person and certainly did horrible things in the name of trying to, get personal glory, he was also fundamental to the development of paleontology and biology in the 1800s. He expanded the importance of museums and made them more accessible to the general public. He was a great lecturer, inspired others about paleontology, and he published extensive research on the nature of vertebrates and was a great wealth for knowledge and for other research in that time. So it's important to remember that if you're like looking at a story history and you just like see something that's painted like as a definite like absolute, you should probably take that with a grain of salt and just like try to like see what the nuance of the situation is so you can learn a lot from it. And what I learned personally was how like the library was a great resource for me when I was doing this learning more about the subject, because as I mentioned, it's a niche subject about some random scientist and that most people don't remember, and yet I was able to find a bunch of like great books and things like that that have made my research a lot more easier. And I was never really want to take advantage of that in my previous research papers. So that's kind of something that I wish I had. It would have made my life a lot easier. But at least I was able to take advantage of it on this one. And so I would just like to go to my acknowledgments. First, of course, I'd like to thank Lance and Elena Calvert for making the award available. I would like to thank my parents and my mom, my dad, my stepmom for coming up, and I thank my grandma who's watching at home. And I would like to thank my professor, Dr. Hay, for assigning me the project and seeing the potential of my essay. I definitely wouldn't have thought it was an award-winning essay when I first wrote it, so I appreciate that. Kind of earned me $1,000 there, so that's much appreciated. Yeah. So yeah, again, I just want to express my gratitude for this honor and just thank the audience for being here.
All right, so moving on to creative works. Safiyya is our first winner in the creative works category. Her piece is titled One Last Month or Clancy's Time Box. Her faculty sponsor, Jacqueline Costello, told judges that Safiyya, quote, ranks in the top 1% of students she's ever guided when it comes to this level of focused research efforts. Detailing Safiyya's commitment to this project, Jacqueline explained that she devoted months to psychological and sociological research, which she then artfully integrated into an entire young adult novel. Judges were equally impressed with the submission, noting that the reflective essay clearly communicated the research and its impact on the novel, an impressive range and number of scholarly sources that goes beyond what's normally cited for creative work, and an enjoyable and distinct structure to the story itself. I would like to invite Safiyya up to talk more about her project.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say what an honor it is to be here with everyone else, and just listening to everyone else's speeches and learning more about their projects has really been an honor. So it's made me feel like, wow, like to be here with people like that is incredible. And before discussing my project, I'd first like to just give some thanks. So first, I'd like to thank my mom. She wasn't able to be here, but from the beginning, like throughout my starting writing in middle school, and she poor woman had to read what I wrote back in middle school, but she supported me ever since then. And then I'd like to thank also my friends who have also supported me, and I have my friend Sophie right here, so thank you to her. And I'd also like to thank Professor Costello could not be here today, but she has supported me significantly throughout the project, along with my other committee members, Dr. Amy Green and Dr. Miley Chapman. And of course, I would like to extend a huge thank you to the UNLV Libraries faculty who empower all of us to cultivate this community of research, research in the creative realm, the scientific realm, the social sciences realm. And I especially would like to thank Miss Amanda Malili, the librarian for the Teacher Development and Resources Library, since that was a huge asset to my work. And definitely not least, but I'd also like to thank Lance and Elena Calvert for making this award possible. So in brief, my project was a young adult novella entitled One Last Month, and its alternate title is Clancy's Time Box. And genre-wise, it's fantasy with some historical fiction, and it's also a problem novel. So it addresses a specific problem that goes on throughout the course of the novel, or novella technically, because it falls under that area. And the main reason I wrote it was not only to work with creative structure, but also to address three main gaps I found in my literature review in existing young adult literature. So the first of these is the importance and impact of non-romantic relationships. So this is not platonic only, but also familial relationships, and one of the bigger ones was friendships. So this was not only to talk about the importance of friendship and non-romantic relationship, but specifically between men and young men, because this was a big gap that I noticed in young adult literature. Often male relationships were not depicted on a level of depth and strength. And they were more like, a lot of times they were side characters, or there's a lot of arguably toxicity between a lot of these characters. So that is one thing I wanted to represent in that novel, was a healthy, non-romantic relationship between the main characters. Secondly, I wanted to address destigmatizing young men's emotional expression. So this is, again, is also something in young adult literature, despite the fact that it's getting better now. Young adult literature still is very female centric, and a lot of times male characters, they don't have a lot of depth of emotion, and when they do express it, a lot of times it's anger or more quote unquote masculine emotion. So in the novella, I wanted to depict it as a strength rather than a weakness. And lastly, I did also want to talk about the nonlinear nature of grief, especially for young adults and for younger audiences who sometimes they don't know how to process it as much as an adult novel would. So, and then also how grief is not always in the Kubler-Ross or the 5 stages of grief structure, basically how different people work with it. So to best express these themes, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to experiment with creative structure. So in young adult works, oftentimes you will see them being done in first person almost exclusively. So I wanted to stray away from that in order to see how I could explore these topics more. So the way I did this was 3 ways. Number one, I used something called an ensemble Bildungsroman. So an Bildungsroman is an education novel, and usually characters, if they don't age physically, then they age or they mature emotionally, spiritually. And instead of focusing on one character going through this Bildung or education, I had all my characters go through that. So all characters engage in personal journeys of growth. And through this, I also explored interweaving narratives between characters, so you would see different sides of one story. So there's not always one perspective, especially in journeys of grief. And I also used 2 different chapter styles, one being revelational, the other being storyline. And each of these types corresponded with different points of view. Revelational was first person, and storyline was usually second. But my creative process and the groundwork research was significantly influenced by the UNLV Library resources. So I mentioned Miss Amanda Milliley earlier, but she really helped me give a lot of direction to my research, especially in identifying then those missing gaps in young adult literature that I could address. So this was really huge for me to have a lot more direction in my research. The Teacher Development and Resources Library located in the College of Education was excellent for my literature review of existing young adult literature. And using online databases such as Novelist Plus and Teaching Books, they had many resources there that were very useful. And also the UNLV Library's extensive and accessible database. So I did want to put emphasis on accessibility, because so many important sources like books, scholarly papers, I was able to access these because of the library. And oftentimes a lot of these are locked down by paywalls that can be like $86 for a paper. So it's a little bit, the accessibility really made it possible. And working with librarians in general, it just helped me develop so many connections with research, different routes to think about than I would have been able to develop on my own working with this. So again, thank you so much for having me, and I'm really honored to receive this. Thank you.
All right, our next winner for the Creative Works category was a joint effort between Chantal Chandler and Tabiya Conyers. Their work is titled Wearing My Crown, an exhibition about the Crown Act. Kara Cole, their instructor and mentor, shared that they are exceptionally dedicated artists, students, and activists who collaborated brilliantly together. Ingrid Refn, who also worked closely with Chantal and Tabiya with this project, detailed how these two wove together legislation, primary sources, and library multimedia resources to create this impactful exhibit, telling judges that their collective work adds to the conversation of bodily autonomy, self-identity, as well as society's role in representing the self. Judges also noted the wide range of sources Chantal and Tabiya consulted, as well as how strongly their reflective essay communicated the influences that shaped their project, including library resources. I would like to invite Chantal and Tabiya up to give some remarks about their exhibit.
It is an honor and a privilege to be accepting the Calvert Award for our creative work wearing our crown. It happens to be on the first level floor of the library. Since we're all here, you can go down there real quick, pop down. We started our project on the Crown Act to show that people shouldn't be ashamed to wear their natural hair out in public. This subject is important to us because both Chantal and I are women of mixed races with hair that is kinky and curly, and we would be directly impacted by society if this act was disregarded. For those of you who are unaware, the Crown Act is an act created to protect hair types and styles that have been targeted and put down for a couple years now. Back in 2019, schools and other public places were barring locks, twists, dreads, and many other hair types as they were seen as distractions. For us, that is our culture. So when approaching our project, we aim to highlight the beauty of natural hair When approaching our research, we wanted to look at how the Crown Act would fit in the history of America. So in doing so, we researched many court cases to highlight how different groups of people were segregated based on something that as humans we cannot control. The Civil Rights Act, Brown v. Board, Dred Scott v. Sanford, and many others are just a few examples of how Americans have had to fight for a space to just exist here in America. This project and the Crown Act are leaving a legacy for minorities in America and is paving the way for people of the future.
Growing up as mixed individuals, we both shared in the experience of not being accepted in any particular race group. We related on being considered too white for Black people and too Black for white people. In response, we both grew up individually, creating a self-made culture within ourselves. We found these commonalities refreshing as we understood each other, not only on an artistic level, but also on a personal level. Along with the court cases, it was also important to highlight what beauty is considered in our culture, specifically for American women. Is it still considered beautiful? Is she still considered beautiful without her hair, without makeup, like I am today? Well, I have makeup on, but is she still considered beautiful if she's Black, Mexican, mixed race, or not a size 6? To combat these cultural imposed beauty standards, we decided to add a video element to the work, a radical performance art piece that invited our viewers to think about all the things that they identify with, asking the personal question, who am I without all these things that I identify with, without my hair, without my race, without my gender? Who am I without all of these external factors? It's important to have honest conversations about different types of discrimination, as well as anecdotally focusing on the things we have in common and can relate to as a whole, the shared human experience.
This award would not be possible without our professor, Carolia Cole. She's in the back right there. She supports our work and also saw us as representatives who could create an exhibition around the Crown Act. She paired us with Erin Mays, who also is here, of the special collections here at Lead Library. And we had a whole team that helped us process and learn how to create a successful project and exhibition. Aaron mentored us and gave us constructive feedback, asking us questions that made us think. He was respectful and collaboratively minded in his approach, being gentle and understanding to our thoughts and ideas, which enabled us to feel comfortable to share. This created trust and cohesiveness within the team, ensuring the success of our multifaceted collaboration.
And to add to that, he also we want to really thank Aaron a lot. I know he doesn't like recognition, but we have to say this because he was really amazing in helping us utilize all the library's resources, like seriously. Okay. And he spent countless hours coordinating meetings, sending out emails, setting up technical aspects of the project with the team of photographers and videographers, as well as even taking elements of the project home to work on, also while working his normal job. He continually goes above and beyond in all he does and is just an amazing human being. Because of him, this project was truly a dream come true. We truly could not have asked for a better mentor, leader, director, curator, and sometimes therapist for me than Aaron. And Aaron is not only a major asset to special collections in the library, but to UNLV as a whole, and should definitely be recognized, not only for his leadership, but the way in which he chooses to lead. He is truly astonishing.
Again, we want to thank Kara. We would like to thank you for being such an amazing mentor and supporter for not only our art, but a supporter for us as individuals. She fights in our corner. You make your students feel seen, heard, and respected. We need more people like you in this world. Thank you for your love and your sacrifices. We are honored to know you and have you as our professor and friend. And this is going to be my last semester with Carolia Cole. So it means a lot just to have her mentor me this whole past year. So
yeah, and even in our critiques in class, it's just like it becomes like therapy hour.
Everybody's crying.
Yeah, everybody's crying, and we're just like, wow, we feel like really celebrated and understood for our art, and it's just the people that we collaborated on, even each other. It's just been such a beautiful experience. Like, we couldn't ask for a better like first time experience in an exhibition, you know, and just having the honor to even have an exhibition or even say that, you know. Okay, this is to Miss Clay T. Thank you for
Also
being
here.
yes, also here. Thank you for being a multifaceted beacon of beauty. Your poise, knowledge, grace, and mere presence fills any room with the essence of greatness. Thank you for all you've done to assist us in this project. For without your forethought, there would be no exhibition. It is our highest honor to have met you and know you.
We also want to thank Demasina, who was our curator. Thank you for your curatorship and expertise. Your extensive knowledge of art, exhibitions, and more ensured the excellence of this project. We know you managed and curated the Bellagio Gallery of Fine Arts as well as teach on campus. Your contribution of time and your mere presence has been a true honor. Thank you immensely. We also want to thank our deans and our assistant deans that helped. Ingrid Ruffin helped a lot with the project. She backed us on our journey, and she was very encouraging when it came to our creative outlets. She also modeled. She was a feature model for Chantal. So without that, we couldn't have done as much as we've done. And also thank you to Maggie Farrell for supporting and being there for us.
And thank you to the lead library staff, Sean, Noah, Key, David, Sarah, Michael, Priscilla, and Amber. Thank you for all you've done to promote, support, and be there for us during this whole exhibition and award submission process. The success of this project would not have been as well-rounded without you. Furthermore, your professionalism, authenticity, and overall demeanor as a staff is bar to none. You are all a true pleasure to work with.
And a lot of them are here.
Yeah, most all of them are here that I named. All right, and of course to Lance and Elena Calvert. Your recognition of the importance of research and sharing it with others is extraordinarily inspirational. Your generosity greatly inspires us to continue to become a voice for research, not only in this subject matter, but in a variety of areas. We are honored to be recipients of this Calvert Award. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And lastly,
I guess we'll thank our mom.
We want to thank our mom. My mom's here. My mom is here right now, and so just wanted to say thank you.
My mom's pretty far. She's not watching, but she's here with me in spirit. She has really supported my journey through the arts, so that's all I could ever ask for.
Yeah. And also, I just wanted to add on a personal note that this project was also very important to me because experiencing grief personally in the last year, this experience really helped me to cope with that. And that's another aspect of me shaving my head is coping with grief. And Ingrid also, I don't think she'd mind me sharing, but that's something that she also went through. And so in all different areas in this project, it was just a beautiful collaboration that I just felt like came together at the right time because I got to express different things that I was going through and be able to cope with that and have supportive people. And Tabiya and I have become like family, I would say. So thank you so much. We're very honored.
And thank you guys for coming.
We're funny.
Okay. Joy Cooper is also a winner in this year's Creative Works category. Her project is titled A Tool for Digital Bibliotherapy, Fostering Emotional Resiliency Through a Visual Novel. Her faculty sponsor, Dr. Sheila Bach, described for judges how the research process actively shaped Joy's project in many ways. From identifying a lack of literature about digital bibliotherapy that led Joy choosing the shape of her project, to the multiple disciplinary perspectives she drew on to create her visual novel, including narrative theory, education, psychology, and more. Dr. Bach also told judges that Joy is already working to implement and test her visual novel, and that her research for this project helped inspire her to apply to graduate programs in library and information sciences. Judges were impressed by Joy's strong reflective essay that detailed how she brought together multiple techniques to create a highly original project, and appreciated the clarity with which she explained how research shaped the end product. I'd like to invite Joy up to speak more about her work.
Hello, everyone. It is an honor to be receiving the Lance and Elena Calvert Award this evening. Truthfully, I had never considered applying for this award when I first began my project. I am someone who is considered to be a non-traditional student. I started at UNLV in fall 2011 after graduating high school and have taken many detours since then, including joining the Army, getting married, and most recently becoming a mom. Thank you. Thank you, he's crazy. So when I finally reached my senior capstone project, it took so long to get there, of course. So when I finally got there, my intention was to do good enough work so I could finally graduate. But I should have known that I could never do just enough work. Those closest to me would often say that I don't know how to do just enough work. I'm the kind of person who always has to do the most, even when it is not required of me. And I can certainly say that is true, especially when it is something that I am passionate about, as it has been with this project. So for my senior capstone project, I was trying to find a way to combine my disciplines of education, English, and counseling into a singular project. And I decided to create a digital bibliotherapy tool. So this decision was born from the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. Suicide rates in Clark County had doubled between 2019 and 21. This number was specifically of children, and this included children in elementary school. I've worked as a substitute in Clark County for a few years, predominantly in elementary schools. So when I thought about how young some of these kids must have been, I was alarmed. So during this time period, counselors and mental health professionals were stretched thin, and there was no way for them to be able to access all the kids who needed help and were suffering from anxiety and depression. For families without health insurance or who lacked finances, mental health resources were practically inaccessible. So I found it imperative to create a resource that made non-clinical socio-emotional learning accessible in a way that was fun, engaging, and functional. And I wanted to make sure that I put an emphasis on the importance of educating children in mental health early on. I chose to create a bibliotherapy-based video game using a video game genre known as a visual novel. If you are unfamiliar with this genre, it is essentially a narrative structured decision-based video game. Choosing a digital bibliotherapy format allowed for a better accessibility by knocking down language barriers through the use of text and audio translating, audio dialogue to assist those with visual impairments, and the digital element made the game accessible to anyone who could access a computer. I also wanted to stress the importance of getting family members, teachers, and staff involved in knowing a student's emotional and mental health. So this format allows for data monitoring to track progression to anyone involved in the child support team so they can see the progress that is or isn't being made and adjust accordingly. To create a bibliotherapy visual novel, I needed to conduct extensive research into bibliotherapy, digital bibliotherapy, anxiety management, discussions around bibliotherapy and other mediums outside of books, and video games as socio-emotional learning tools, among numerous other topics. I relied heavily on UNLV's library database to locate peer-reviewed scholarly case studies and articles to construct a viable digital bibliotherapy tool backed by evidence and research. This project has changed the trajectory of my life in many ways. The research process uncovered a passion for research and appreciation for librarians and library resources, so much so that I am actually pursuing librarianship in grad school and will be starting at the University of Alabama in the fall. Roll Tide. As for the project itself, as it was mentioned previously, the storyboard is actually in the process of being converted into an actual playable game with the intention of beta testing with a local school with an estimated start date of fall this year. None of this work would have been possible without the help of Dr. Sheila Bach, who's back there in a cute mustard top. Dr. Bach, thank you for nominating me and encouraging me to apply for this award and for being there every step of the journey. Thank you for your willingness to bounce ideas around with me, listen to my multiple concerns and anxieties, and just guiding me. Your guidance was invaluable in this process. He is not here tonight, but thank you to Dr. Mark Padungpat for introducing me to the concept of bibliotherapy in his Intro to Interdisciplinary Studies class. A lot of I's, a lot of syllables. Learning about bibliotherapy would obviously eventually influence the direction of my project. And thank you to Lance and Elena Calvert for making this award possible. And thank you to the selection committee for choosing me as a recipient of this award.
Thank you all for sharing your inspiring research with us, and congratulations again. And now I'd like to turn things over to Roseanne Matola, Head of Educational Initiatives at UNLV Libraries, for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Amber. I get the difficult task of following the incredible evening of speaking that we just heard from all of our student winners. I will say personally, this is one of my favorite events of the year, nights of the year. When you coincide this with maybe graduation, it is the most rewarding evening for all of us. I think especially within the libraries, because we get to hear so many of these wonderful stories. about student research and how it's coming to fruition and the process. I think we learn so much from the process that students are encountering through their incredible work. So I thank you all for being here tonight and to celebrate these outstanding students. I want to take a moment to also applaud the students who applied for the award but maybe aren't being recognized. We did have a record number of applications this year, and each student dedicated considerable time and energy to submit their application materials. Along with completing the significant research project that they submitted, they also wrote a reflective essay that talks about their research process and then sought out faculty support with a letter to accompany their submission. And as evidenced by tonight's competitive winning recipients, we've really received quite a breadth and depth of applications this year. And you can see that undergraduate student research at UNLV is growing and thriving, and in so many interesting and intriguing and exciting ways, and across so many disciplines. Again, I would like to also thank a few other people that helped make this award possible. First and foremost, we are here today because of the generosity of Lance and Elena Calvert for their endowing this award. Without their support, we would not be able to offer a monetary recognition and award for all of these outstanding students. In addition to that, and the Calvert family, I'd like to recognize the outstanding teaching faculty, many of you are here tonight, the instructors, and graduate assistants who work with students every day to integrate research-based learning into their courses. Students who apply for this award do have to submit that letter from a faculty member. And as you've heard from Amber tonight, the judges really give those letters a lot of weight and consideration, and they provide integral context for how the student is asking and answering a critical question within the field. So it really, that letter of support helps us gauge the significance of the student's project, and faculty support is truly vital to the process. I'd also like to acknowledge, and you've heard a lot of thank yous, to all of the folks in the libraries that contribute to student learning day in and day out. And there are a lot of people that aren't here tonight, but there are people from our frontline staff, our expert librarians and expert staff that work with our students in so many important ways. And there are folks behind the scenes that make all of our materials accessible. So when you're working on finding your sources at midnight, there are people that have made it happen so that those sources, those links are working, those files are downloading, and you're able to access things when you need them. And really and truly, the people within the libraries help make this work possible. And then I want to thank and extend my thanks to our colleagues who helped promote and provide the opportunity for the award tonight, including Hugh Aoki, this evening our photographer, and our graphic designer. He makes all of the things within the libraries more inviting. So hopefully you can appreciate his work all year long. And then Carrie Ann Cahall, who's not here tonight, but she is the behind the scenes that makes sure all the application materials get to where they need to be to make this award possible. And then Sean Kennedy and Noah Price in our communications office, which really make tonight's ceremony possible. And then I'm profoundly grateful to work with Amber Sewell, who has coordinated this year's award process and led the application and judging process. And then finally, I again want to thank one more time our team of judges, and two particular that I would like to highlight. We have two former Calvert winners who are now part of the library's faculty, Landon Palushai and our esteemed librarian, Christina Miskey, next to Brittany. So a big shout out to Landon and Christina. So you never know that you can be a past Calvert Award and then a future faculty member within the libraries. But I will also say we do kind of keep an eye on our Calvert winners and where they go, and they are making incredible contributions to the world, both at UNLV and more broadly. So it's very exciting to see some go on to get PhDs and some go on to make major policy changes in the world. And our volunteer judges, in addition to those two that I mentioned, they take time away from a very busy time of the semester, and in a very short time frame, come back and turn in their remarks and their evaluations of the projects. So we really couldn't have tonight without their support as well. And this evening marks our 17th anniversary of the Calvert Award. This year's award recipients will join 67 other students who've been recognized for their outstanding research. And as you've heard from our winners tonight, these awards are meaningful to them. They truly matter and make a big difference to their future plans. Tonight, we will celebrate their accomplishments and look forward to what they embark on next in their academic and professional pursuits. And with Zachary's words a little bit about waste, I encourage all of you to continue celebrating and enjoy our refreshments, because usually at the end of a ceremony like this, we will encourage those that are in the library to come up and help finish what's left. But I will just maybe echo, if you have not yet had something to eat or drink, we would really appreciate it. We have to do our part. So I give you a little laughter, but it is also a very serious matter. So thank you so much for your time and for being here tonight to celebrate these outstanding, wonderful winners. And the student winners, if you don't mind lingering just for a few minutes. I know at the end of tonight, we want to get a photo of all of you together. But we thank you so much and appreciate all of the work we all do to contribute to student learning here at UNLV. Good night.